Mary Frances Early has been called a Georgia groundbreaker, a woman of quiet courage and lasting legacy. She helped integrate UGA, and her name could soon become part of the campus at Georgia to inspire generations to come. The College of Education is launching a special initiative to name its college for UGA's first African-American graduate. Born in Atlanta, she earned her bachelor's degree from Clark Atlanta in 1957. She then enrolled at UGA in '61, receiving her master's degree in music education 1 year later. She returned to Athens, earning a specialist degree 5 years after that. She spent 37 years working in public schools, and after retiring taught at Morehouse, Spelman, and back at her alma mater, Clark Atlanta. The school president and the dean of the College of Education are in full support of naming the building in her honor.
We both felt that it was an important legacy that needed to be recognized. There were a lot of things that needed to happen behind the scenes, people and processes that needed to be put in place, and I am thrilled that in just about a year we've been able to get to this stage of the process, and I look forward to what the next year or so will bring until we can hopefully make this official.
Mary Frances Early says that music is not a frill, but a necessary part of education, the universal language that must be taught. The last step here to name UGA's College of Education after her, approval from the Board of Regents.